Good morning, Unity of Charlotte.
Good morning.
Good morning. Today is the day we celebrate our freedom. And coming into July 4th, 2021, don't we have a lot to celebrate? And I was thinking about that this morning, and I was thinking, here I am at Unity of Charlotte, the place that believes in freedom and teaches how to access the freedom that we really are. And also the freedom of where we live, which is an extraordinary gift, especially as we look around the world today. And the freedom that we have learned that we have over a year of unusual challenges, extraordinary challenges, and now to be in the place we are on the hopefully other side of this is another reason to celebrate. So welcome again to Unity of Charlotte, where our mission is to nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. Simply put, we are here to love, serve, and grow. And I'm Reverend Pat Dre, and I am so glad you chose to be with us today for several reasons, which you're going to be learning about very soon. Now, today we're going to start our service by sharing together our statement of oneness, and that will lead us into our opening prayer. So say with me, there is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God, the good omnipotence. And today's prayer is the daily word. In thought, word, and action, I celebrate my freedom. There are many ways to feel free. I may work hard to become financially free. I may plan trips so that I can explore the world. I may commit to learning for intellectual freedom or exercise my body for greater freedom of movement. Even as I do my work in the world to know freedom, I remember that I am always free at the level of spirit. No situation or circumstance has power over me. Every day and in every area of my life, I live from my divine nature, where I am wholly and completely free. Through my inner powers of understanding and faith, I recognize and embrace empowering beliefs. My spiritual gifts of strength and release keep me on course and help me free myself from habits that derail my spiritual growth. Through God within, I am grateful to be free. I wanted to also mention, we do talk about the 5 unity principles during our opening, and I had a kind of interesting experience this week, and I'll cover it in 3 different comments. Number 1, I don't believe in the rule of 3s. That's a joke. You know that luck or bad luck comes in 3s because, you know, my mathematics course told me when it's a continuous number of good things or bad things or in between things, you can't really separate it in 3s. It's not in 3s. This week, though, I had an interesting experience. My computer went out, and it really went out, but it went out 2 weeks ago, and it took 2 weeks to fix. But here's the good side of it. I retrieved all of my information except for the emails over the last 2 weeks. So if you emailed me, you have to email me back so that I get it. And I was able to capture some other information that was very important to me that wasn't associated with this computer. So that was sort of an extra plus that I hadn't been expecting. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, my refrigerator went out. And it took me a little while to figure out why the things were thawing in the freezer. and why the things were getting warm on the top. But you know, I realized another good thing, which is I used the principles of taking action and went to the appliance store and sort of harnessed my husband to come along with me. And I bought a new refrigerator that is better than the one that was not so old. And so I'm excited about that. Plus an extra gift on top of that. The dishwasher was going anyway, so why not get a dishwasher too? So I solved my second problem. And then the air conditioner went out too and leaked through the roof. But lo and behold, it was a very inexpensive visit to unclog a pipe. So that's the non-3-3 that I'm talking about, which does prove, number one, that God is good, and that all the people who helped me out, and there were a lot, those people were really good and very, very helpful. And thoughts create experiences. So while these things were going in the direction that they were going, I said to myself, this can only lead to good. And prayer is connection, because I certainly stopped, dropped, and prayed at each time. And action was needed, and the action turned out to be quite fun. So there we have the bonanza on the Day of Freedom, where we covered all of the 5 unity principles. So welcome. And welcome to all of you that are joining us here today. You're a marvelous crowd, big smiles, happy people, and living in freedom. And we're delighted for that. For those that are joining us on Zoom, you are very welcome. We are happy to have you. And those that join us on YouTube. And if anyone you know is in need of prayer, our prayer lines are open. Use the icon on the website and send us your prayer request. It is our good pleasure to pray for you and know for you the divinity that flows into all of our lives. And I might say we're exceptionally good at that kind of prayer. You can also dial Unity 800 now pray for the silent unity anytime, day or night. We have our usual groups that are meeting, and all of those are listed at our website. And so I want to mention the Unity Men's Group that meets here on the second and fourth Wednesdays from 9:30 to 11. Our affirmative prayer group is 7:15 on Tuesday evenings, which keeps a prayerful energy for all things here at Unity of Charlotte and beyond. And Dialogue is Service, which is a very interesting dialogue class on Wednesdays from 1 to 2:30. The book club meets once a month on the third Sunday, and the Course in Miracles is Thursday mornings at 9:30. So those are our announcements for now. We do have and I don't have the announcement in front of me, but we do have on the date, Barbara, for the town hall, 18th. July 18th. So you will know, being part of our other town halls, that we have been visualizing, expressing, and experiencing what a mission-centric church operates. And we have a wonderful team, Barbara Rolfe and Horace Bush, who have been leading that group. So we're excited about that coming up in the future. I do want to introduce Reverend Rebecca Nagy, and many of you know her from the many spiritual gifts she has brought to the greater Charlotte area. She is a marvelous teacher, a marvelous minister. I got to know her briefly when she was the minister on Mallory Creek Road and have stayed in touch with her. She's been part of our Unity Day of Prayer for our last time, and we are most blessed to have her with us today to offer us her message. So welcome, Reverend Rebecca.
Yes, thank you so much. There's a saying that getting old ain't for sissies. And since I'm getting younger every day, I fully intend, after being in your presence for this time, that I will be throwing away my cane and skipping down the road. So, yes, there you go. So I was greeted this morning when I first got here by one of the members of the congregation, and she said, "Oh, I looked you up online and I saw you do weddings and wedding minister and that." And I said, "Well, that's a great segue, because I heard about this groom, and I just did a wedding Friday night, and I do 2 or 3 a weekend now. And after about 24 years of being a minister, I think I've done about 2,700 weddings at this point. So I believe it or not, years ago, I actually started counting them. It was like, whoa, should I tell people that? But anyway, so I heard about this groom. And yes, see, it already fell. No, leave it there. It's good. I heard about this groom who, before at the rehearsal, he went up to the magistrate, because I know a minister would never accept bribes. So this is a magistrate. I changed the joke. So the magistrate, he says, I'm going to give you $100 if you will get rid of that obey stuff. He says, I don't want to say that. And the magistrate says, okay, sure, that's fine. I'm ready to do that. So the day of the wedding comes, and he looks at him and said, and do you promise to love, honor, and not only obey, but to go for every wish that the bride wants, take care of her, bring her breakfast in bed, make sure that honey-do list is done on time? And the groom goes, yeah, I do. And then he said, hey, psst, I thought we had a deal. He said, the bride had a better one. And he gave him back his money. So, and it's very interesting, because it is such a blessing to be able to be around people in our country, in its freedom to marry whom you love, no matter what the body they have decided to be in. And that is really what we celebrate when it comes to 4th of July. And the next slide, since I don't have my clicker, I wanted to start with this. We all know this, right? We all know about Emma Lazarus, that she proclaimed the great dignity and worth of each individual citizen. So I'd like for you to read this with me. Here we go. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free, the wretched refuge of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, the tempest tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Look at what we're going through as a country, not just now, but really through the last decade or so. Now, those of you that do know me know that I'm into esoteric Christianity. And part of esoteric Christianity is looking at the sole purpose of a country based on its astrological principles. We are a Cancer country. Now, since I am a Cancer, I know that one of my personality-based issues is I am very, very, very sensitive. I get my feelings hurt very, very easily. How does that translate as a country and a personality? Well, first of all, we don't like it when people tell us no, do we, as a country? But on the flip side of that, as the Cancer mother, we do tend to mother the world, right? And that is going towards our sole purpose. When we can get through with the selfishness of being personality centered. And to me, the Statue of Liberty is a symbol of America's compassionate soul, which is being really sorely tested today. But what we're being challenged to do is look beyond that. We are in a time of change, chaos, that's going to lead to transformation. And as someone reminded me before service in the psychology world, you go through an experience in order to get to the other side. We're going through something. We don't have to stop. Do not stop and center yourself in any criticism or judgment or unforgiveness. The key to compassion is forgiveness. And so as we look at all the personality things that have been going on for years, that's been about an individual, whether it's an individual person, an individual group. And it's not about politics. It's about the people that make up the groups. It's about us. If we go into anger or judgment when we hear something that we don't agree with, then we're part of the problem, not the solution. So it's the idea of allowing yourself to see where you're feeling it, see why you're feeling it. But there's something deeper about the soul of America to explore right now, because we were founded for a sacred purpose by men and women who knew the country had a great destiny as part of an evolving plan for humanity. That was basically just like it was written in the stars when Master Jesus appeared on the planet. It was written in the stars for this great nation to have a sole purpose, a plan and a purpose that would allow us to influence not only our country, but the world. And we have to remember that. Has anyone ever traveled a lot internationally? Okay. And I know the last time I really was glad. I was actually in Italy, and I was really glad I spoke Italian at the time before, the gray set in. I have brown hair. And people thought I was Italian because I'm half Italian. Because it was a time, this was not recently, but it was a time when we were considered verboten. It was like the ugly Americans. And I was with a group, it was a business of ugly Americans. I mean, they thought hey, everything was there to serve them. But the thing is, to find the sole purpose of a country, to find your sole purpose, it is through service. It is not being served. It is through serving one another, through serving the nations. That's why we're always the first ones out there as a country to say, hey, we'll help. The problem sometimes, or the issue is, we have little strings to that help. When we can learn to get those strings and not hold on to them, then we will really truly begin to start experiencing and expressing our sole purpose. So each nation has a self-centered personality and a wise and compassionate soul. Every nation. And there are several books out there in the ancient wisdom teachings or the ageless wisdom teachings that talk about the soul and destiny of the nations. But we have a soul purpose as well. And so a nation's soul, though, carries the blueprint of its highest purpose and ideas, and it discovers it by strengthening the national will to embrace the good, the beautiful, and the true. Now think about that. We just sang America, the beautiful, right? What's beautiful about America for us? You have to think about that. And, I try. I'm not going to say I'm perfect about doing it every single day, but I do try to start my day not only with prayer, which I do every day, but with setting intention. And I had a student years ago, a private student that was new to this. She was actually raised an atheist and wanted to know more about my path and what I taught. And she said, I started practicing that intention thing you told me about. And I told her to start simply, like manifest a parking space. She goes, every time now I go to Walmart, I get a parking place right up front. I said, can you imagine the power that you could put behind that if you keep thinking in a bigger way? What else could you manifest? And the idea that we're living through right now as a country is that groups of people are getting together to express their purpose. Are they expressing their personality purpose, or are they expressing their soul purpose? And we need to look at who we're hanging with, because the soul holds our inner pattern. And people would say, I've heard people say over the years, I wish God gave me directions. Well, you kind of have directions. How many people have explored astrology or are open to that idea? Okay, those are your directions. That's your blueprint. That's your soul blueprint. And there's two different levels of looking at your soul blueprint. One is personality, which is what you're here to accomplish in this life on a personal level. And the other level is esoteric astrology, which is what your soul is here to accomplish. And so what we have to understand for the United States is that this includes the integration of our major ethnic and racial constituencies. We are the melting pot. There's a reason that so many people have sent they're tired, they're hungry, they're poor. Okay. And that's mostly why we're all here. I'm not indigenous to this place. My parents weren't indigenous. My grandparents came over from different parts of Europe. But the reason that we're here is for the way I look at it, is to synthesize all that came before from all of our great nations and cultures and countries, and to form a new group of world servers serving humanity by example. And so this is what I feel is the task facing us today. You know, our founding fathers knew the divine destiny of America. Did you all know that they were very high degrees of Masons, right? And so they knew. A story I love to tell is about the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and how they were sitting there and they were kind of, closed in, and they were nervous about this. And John Hancock was sitting there getting ready to sign, and he was hesitating. And then this voice from the gallery said, "Sign, for God's sakes, man, sign." And John Hancock. And then they looked up and there was nobody there. It was closed, locked. According to ancient wisdom teachings, that was the Master Saint Germain, whose part of his work on the earth plane is to guide this great country in discovering being its sole purpose. So he says, "Oh God, get out of your personalities. Let's get in the soul, sign it." And that's what our own higher self sometimes does to us. It might have our, three things break down in our house. And when we learn, as Pat shared with us, that each time something like that happens, we kneel and pray, then we begin to shift the energy around the changes and challenges that happen. And that's what's happening today, because, most nations have come into being as a result of an individual who articulated in some way that tiny spark of the spiritual soul. So we had a master of wisdom, who is one of Master Saint Germain is a master of wisdom, but we also have these great beings. George Washington was how many degrees of Masonic are there? 35, 36. He was one of the highest degrees. And he also was recognized during the Revolutionary War of having prophetic dreams. And a lot of our great leaders of this country to this day have those prophetic dreams. And so just as individuals have to struggle through the process, we have to struggle through the process of having our personality surrender to our soul. And the wisdom teachings, it's called becoming a soul-infused personality, which means your personality is guided by your soul, so that this vehicle that you're in is truly the horse upon which the soul rides. That was an expression of a great spiritual teacher, Krishnamurti. And so it's this idea that our country is also a physical entity. It has physical landmass, right? It also has an astrological chart. And so what I wanted to look about is to get an indication of the spiritual and mystic awareness of our founders. And this actually came through our Great Seal, and our dollar bill, of course, happened way after that. But we also had great mystics that worked with our president, FDR. And I'm going to go into that in just a second, who that was. But here we find, of all things, a pyramid with the all-seeing eye of God. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about this, right? You know about the mystical significance. And it has the Latin words, which mean he, or God, favors our undertakings. It's right there on our dollar bill. And the words that also mean new order of the ages. I'm not going to give you my high school Latin by saying it. I'm just going to give you the English translation. And the eagle on the front of the Great Seal represents spiritual vision. Now, I have to tell you, it's a bald eagle. And yes, I know it's our national symbol, but the bald means its head, crown, chakra is open to the wisdom and guidance of God. That's what has that significance. The eagle on our seal holds both arrows and an olive branch. But he faces the olive branch, breaking with traditional heraldry, which usually has the characters facing to the left, not to the right. Now, in dream interpretation, which I also do teach and do on an individual basis, to the right means the future, to the left is the past. So it's not through war that we will find peace. It is through embracing peace in the future. So the one life, the divine presence, which pervades all of life and creates unity and diversity, is what we know from an esoteric standpoint is part of the plan and purpose. So as we go into some of the ideas that we have a soul purpose, it's important, or actually key, to solving our national problems or issues or challenges that we're going today. It suggests that without divine guidance, we lose our vision. We lose our vision. So it gives kind of new meaning to surrendering to God, doesn't it? And what I like to say is not my will, but thine, but my will to thine. That way I can outpicture divine will. I can live it and breathe it and be a vessel for it. Surrendering it sometimes implies giving over your will. I like to say I'm going to be in sync with the will, partnering with God, co-creating. We hear that a lot in New Thought. We are co-creating with God. So what the next thing we want to think of, that in the long sweep of the evolution of a nation, it first develops its personality. And I think we got that down pat. I think we have our personality down pat as a Cancer nation. The other thing about Cancers is, we love to eat. That is such an important. So we're here celebrating the birthday of the United States of America. What are we all probably going to do today? Go to picnics, barbecues. I mean, you got to celebrate that, right? So it's got to be eat. So once we express all that and we realize that there is more to life than just having plenty, we have Thanksgiving, we have so many things that show that we are a country of plenty. Okay, so we take that for granted sometimes, and I think we realized that during this last year of COVID, didn't we? Boy, did we realize the lack of freedom that we had. Although I discovered Instacart and Amazon Prime, and I don't think I'll ever be able to live with either one of those again, without either one of those again. So what we want to do now is invoke understanding, invoke knowledge of our higher purpose. Remember, ask and ye shall receive, knock and the door shall be open. So let's start asking. What is my highest purpose? What am I here to do? What am I here to do as part of the great plan of not only my soul, but the soul of this country, of which I am so privileged to live in? If you have traveled to places like India or China, Japan, which I was privileged in my former life as a fashion designer, I traveled all over the world, and I saw the diversity and the lack. I mean, here we were as Americans, and I remember one time in particular, I was in Hong Kong, and we were sitting up in the office and going over all of my designs and looking at them, and then I happened to look out. They had this big, long wall of windows that looked out over the factory where all the workers were. And in the middle of the factory was like this almost like a fire pit where they had all their little individual things that were cooking as they were working, ready for their midday meal. And I looked and I heard the buyers back there negotiating pennies on the dollar. And all of a sudden I had this amazing realization that those pennies are affecting those people's lives. And weren't we just the most selfish people in the world? I left the fashion business soon after that. It was sort of like one of my soul awakenings. You're not doing what you need to do anymore. You're part of the problem, not the solution. And so years later, I was fortunate to find a seminary, and the rest, as they say, is history. But it's every one of us will have, it could be a health challenge, it could be the passing of a loved one, it could be something like that happened to me in the middle of a factory in Hong Kong. But I'm going to tell you, we usually don't just have one of those. As we grow spiritually, just as our country is growing spiritually, it's like this spiral that takes us up another notch. And the next challenge is even more challenging until we go through it again and we have another higher realization, and up and up and up until we, as I said, surrender to our higher purpose and become a soul-infused personality. And so through this, got to get my glasses back on. Through this, as I said, the soul eventually overlights. In some places it says overshadows. I like overlights, and controls the personality, not of us, but also our nation. So take heart, folks, because as we look at what's going on, I'd like to go back to a much beloved president, Kennedy. And he said, ask not what you can do for your country. We know that saying. We're entering into the Aquarian age, and it's about group energy. So why don't we say, ask not what the world can do for your country, but what the country can do for the world. See, just a little shift of focus, just a little shift of understanding. And we are in that shifting period between one age and another. The old age was about the group. Was about the individual, the guru. And y'all understand this because you're going towards being a mission-centric, not a minister-centric church, right? So you understand, and that's a very Aquarian concept. It's about the mission, and the group supports the mission. And that's where we are right now as a nation. So instead of marching and protesting and all that resisting stuff, let's just stop whenever we get angry or militant about wanting to change and go not only into prayer, but into visualization and intention, and hold the vision for what it is prayer, a peace means to you. And then allow yourself to link, and we're going to do a meditation in a minute to work with that kind of energy so that you become part of the solution. And you can do it just sitting right in your own backyard. You don't have to go out and march, okay? Because the idea is, in order to change something on one level, you go up to the next level. So in order to change something on the physical plane, you want to go into the subjective plane, into the mental plane, and not only visualize it, but you have to feel it too. You have to engage the feeling. And what is that feeling? Unconditional love, compassion, forgiveness, and then hold the vision, feel it, and let it go out. So that the quality that we call freedom allows us not to be separate from the rest of humanity, but engage and be a part of the essence of America's soul. Because at our founding, we were given the freedom to choose our own path of development with wide-ranging religious and civil liberties never before granted in the history of the world. We are privileged that our soul incarnated into this particular time and this particular place. God knew what he was doing. He doesn't make, she doesn't make mistakes. No, God never says, oops, made a mistake. No, God knows exactly why you're here. And so do you, if you just allow yourself to not worry. Oh, worry? What's that? We haven't been worried in the last couple of years, have we? Nah. So when we experience this taste of freedom, and we are today, aren't we? We are mask free today. I had to go dig through my drawer to find lipstick. You know, it's the number one selling thing right now in the world. The number one product being sold is lipstick. That's why, because we've been hiding behind the masks for all this long. And so, but also, the personality of the United States often distorts our freedoms into irresponsible license and self-will to the detriment of others. Then there's the other thing that says, I'm not gonna wear a mask anyway, because this is using this is inhibiting my civil liberties. Huh? No, there's another thing that it's doing. It's being respectful of those that are around you. But see, sometimes our freedom goes way offline. It says, I'm free and to be me, and I'm not going to worry about anything. I want what I want. What is that? Personality or soul? Thank you. Whenever you do that and say, well, are you taking into consideration the good of the greater whole? And that's what we need to look at. So I want to go into the 4 freedoms now. Yes. Okay. So after we fought the Second World War, President Roosevelt gave a speech on January 6, 1941, that's now known as the 4 Freedoms Speech. His words came at a time, now listen to the what's happening now, came at a time of extreme American isolationism. Since World War I, many Americans sought to distance themselves from foreign entanglements, including foreign wars. Policies to curb immigration quotas and increase tariffs on imported goods were implemented. And a series of neutrality acts passed in the 30s limited American arms and munitions assistance abroad. Just think about this for a minute, okay? It's almost like we're taking 2 steps back in order to go 1 step forward. And that's where we are right now. We're in the middle of that 1 step forward. And we need to put that foot down. In his address, Roosevelt called for the immediate increase in American arms, and so that's not what I want to talk about. The 4 freedoms outlines the unfinished business of our nation and can be a guide for all of our actions. So the first freedom is the freedom, of course, of speech and expression everywhere in the world. The second is freedom of every person to worship God in his own way everywhere in the world. The third freedom is from want, which translated into world terms means economic understandings which will secure to every nation a healthy peacetime life for its inhabitants everywhere in the world. And we are seeing that right now all over the world because of war. People suffering and not having enough food. The fourth freedom is freedom from fear, which translated into world terms means a worldwide reduction of armaments to such a point and in such a thorough fashion that no nation will be in a position to commit an act of physical aggression against any neighbor anywhere in the world. And so I want to share with you the end of the speech. A good society is able to face schemes of world domination and foreign revolutions alike without fear. Since the beginning of our American history, we have been engaged in change and a perpetual peaceful revolution, a revolution which goes on steadily, quietly, adjusting itself to changing conditions without the concentration camp or the quick lime in the ditch. The world order which we seek is the cooperation of free countries working together in a friendly, civilized society. This nation has placed its destiny in the hands and heads and hearts of its millions of free men and women, and its faith in freedom under the guidance of God. Freedom means the supremacy of human rights everywhere. Our support goes to those who struggle to gain those rights and keep them. Our strength is our unity of purpose. And he ended with, to that great high concept, there can be no end save victory. The ideas enunciated in Roosevelt's Four Freedoms were the foundational principles that revolved into the Atlantic Charter, declared by Winston Churchill and FDR in August of 1941, the United Nations Declaration of January 1942, and also Eleanor Roosevelt, if those of you that know about her work, it was part of her Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, adopted by the United Nations. Now, another thing I want to swing back to was about the mystical influences on our country. During the time of FDR, a great mystic, Manly P. Hall, was an advisor and confidant of both Eleanor and FDR. He wrote The Secret Teachings of the Ages. He also wrote The Secret Destiny of America. And he said, when the mob governs, man is ruled by ignorance. When the church governs, he is ruled by superstition. When the state governs, he is ruled by fear. Before man can live together in harmony and understanding, ignorance must be transmuted into wisdom, superstition into illumined faith, and fear into love. And that's where we stand today. As members of the New Thought movement, we know that illumined faith is where the path to change, love, forgiveness, compassion will lead us if we're willing to just walk it. And so it is. What I'd like to do is lead us for a minute into a brief, do I have time for a meditation? Okay, into a meditation. All right, so if you will put everything aside, take a deep breath, remembering as above, so below, as within, so without. We take a few deep breaths to relax our bodies, emotions, our mind. We link inwardly with all those around the country who are also meditating for the U.S. at this time, connecting them heart to heart, soul to soul. Take a breath. And take a moment to ground yourself and connect with the earth. And now we align with our highest self, the infinite source of love and wisdom, symbolized by a 6-pointed star about 8 inches above your head, your soul star. And we link that with your own heart. And we connect with the great teachers now, whatever tradition you feel closest to. Master Jesus, Buddha, Krishna. See light and love pouring in through the soul star into the top of your head, feeling yourself becoming lighter and lighter. Breathe. Deepen your heart. Get in touch with your love for America. Align with her soul and however it comes to you, her highest purpose, and the principles upon which she was founded. Visualize our country being reunited around a common vision for our future, with opportunities for every citizen, every person that dwells here to contribute their part. Now reflect on what you personally can do to help our nation in whatever field of work where you can best contribute your skills and gifts. Now imagine all of us in this meditation standing together in the crown of the Statue of Liberty, in the room at the top where we can look out on the expansive view across the countryside, see the statue compassionately welcoming people from around the world, and see our nation at the same time being protected and guided. Now see a great light from the heart of God, the heart of the universe, surrounding and filling our nation, her people, and our environment, healing, changing, uplifting. And see our nation now cooperating with other nations to serve their highest good and create greater peace, health, and prosperity for all the people of our planet. Hold the vision for a few moments. Taking a few deep breaths. Focusing your attention back in your body, where you're sitting, with your feet firmly on the ground. And now, gently open your eyes and please say with me to bring yourself into full waking consciousness. The prayer for our nation will be on the screen. May we as a nation be guided by the divine to rediscover the sacred flame of our national heritage, which so many have given their lives to safeguard. Let the wounds of separation and division be healed by opening our hearts to listen to the truth on all sides, allowing us to find a higher truth that includes us all. May we learn to honor and enjoy our diversity and differences as a people, even as we more deeply touch our fundamental unity. May we as a people undergo a transformation that will draw forth individuals to lead our nation who embody courage, compassion, and a higher vision. May our leaders inspire us, and we so inspire each other with our potential as individuals and as a nation that a new spirit of forgiveness, caring, and honesty be born in our nation. May we, as a united people, move with clear, directed purpose to take our place within the community of nations to help build a better future for all humankind. May we, as a nation, rededicate ourselves to truly living as one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And may God's will be done for our nation as we, the people, align with that will. And so it is. Namaste.
That was so powerful. Thank you. Thank you. Before we move into our offering time, I wanted to mention that as clarification for all, that we are a mask optional church. You have the opportunity to wear a mask if you choose. If you choose not to, you don't have to wear a mask. We don't require it anymore. And we did several surveys over a period of time to find out, because it was important for many of our people to know where we were on vaccinations. And we know that our choir is fully vaccinated. They've got a day off today. They're out doing that picnicking that we talked about. When we surveyed, I think it was our opening day, we surveyed and we found out that in a group of approximately 30 people, only one person didn't raise their hand. And I don't know if they didn't hear the question or not, but I just wanted you to know that we are, by and large, a vaccinated group of people. And so that's why we are mask optional. And I'll mention that time again so that people are aware of where we stand on that. And now we move to our offertory. And as you know, this has a very important place in my heart, because when I entered this teaching 21 years ago, it was over my own need for a new and better thought around prosperity. And I had beginner's luck. So, as is often said in practitioner work, I took to the teaching very quickly and very avidly. And much to my delight, the things that were most vexing to me in my life at that point in time turned around so quickly, it would make your head spin. Now, that's the story that most of us have of some sort or another when we got into this teaching, how we fell in love with it. And we're going to explore that more with our entire congregation in the near future. But this is why when I have an opportunity to do my offering, I practice the law of circulation, because I am a person who's deeply invested in my own spiritual progress. And I learned that 21 years ago. And so it gives me great joy to hold what I am offering to my heart. And it's not just money, because as you know, I'm in service to this church, which has been filled with abundant joy in being on your board, as so many of your board members are present today. And so practice the law of circulation in your own life as you give to that which is important to you of your time, your treasure, and your talent. And so speak with me our blessing. Joyously, I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive. Thank you, God.